Today, we are taking a look at the Eastern Front, but maybe not in the way you'd expect.
Right.
We're not chasing those big headline troop movements. Instead, we're zooming in on two very specific tactical actions.
Almost surgical.
Exactly. Two distinct military choices that I think reveal a whole lot about the strategic pressure and the current mindset on the ground. It's a deep dive into what the small moves are telling us about the big picture.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
Our source material today is this really rigorous analysis of combat footage, a bit of on-the-ground intel, and we're going to synthesize it for you.
So what's our mission here?
Our mission is to really understand the difference between, on the one hand, a strategic act of, well, sacrifice blowing up your own infrastructure,
Yeah.
and on the other, an act of high-level precision, a focused strike.
And by comparing these two events, we can see how the contest is shifting in two really critical areas.
We can.
So let's start with that strategic sacrifice. It's a huge landscape-altering event, the destruction of a dam near the village of Pryvillya.
Sometimes you'll see it written as Pryvillya. It's in the eastern Luhansk region.
Right near those contested river crossings. Okay, let's unpack this.
So the core event here is really an act of intentional defensive engineering. The analysis we looked at indicated that Russian forces were consolidating their position.
And they were preparing to use this dam.
They were preparing to use it as a critical crossing point to push further. So the primary goal was preemptive. It was to neutralize that crossing before it could be used for a major push.
And what immediately jumps out from the analysis we saw is the debate over how it was done. I mean, when something this big goes down, you'd usually assume an airstrike.
That's the go-to assumption, yeah.
No. So why did the analysts conclude this was almost certainly not the case?
Well, the evidence was pretty compelling. It comes down to two things.
Yeah.
Scale and location. If you look at the actual footage, the blast itself was just colossal.
Huge.
Much larger than the typical ordnance we see used, even with glide bombs.
So that blast size was the key detail, suggesting placed charges on the ground. Can you maybe elaborate on what that difference means for you, the listener?
Of course. So when you use ground-placed charges, especially on a concrete structure like a dam, you're not just hitting it from the outside. You're doing internal shaped demolition.
You're focusing the energy.
Precisely. The energy of that blast is directed into the structure to breach it completely. And that leads to a much more comprehensive structural failure.
So it looks more like a controlled demolition than a big crater from a bomb dropping out of the sky.
Exactly. You get that rapid collapse.
Доброго дня. Ми бійці 1027-го зенітно-ракетно-артилерійського полку. Зараз знаходимось на Київщині і тримаємо протиповітряну оборону Києва та Київської області від шахедів і ракет. Наразі потребуємо мікроавтобус для оперативної ротації особового складу. Звертаємось до команди Kharkiv Oblast та Бандеромобіль з проханням допомогти з купівлею, підготовкою, доставкою авто. А також до Джека і його ютуб-спільноти.
So this wasn't a lucky strike. This was a plan. A very intentional, defensive, tactical choice made right there on the ground.
No doubt about it.
Okay, so let's get into the consequences. Primary goal was achieved. The crossing point is gone. But the secondary effect, this massive natural barrier it created, that might be the more important part of the story.
Oh, it absolutely is. Once that dam was breached, the water just started flooding the land to the south. And this isn't just, some inconvenient puddles.
No.
This is weaponizing the landscape. The sheer volume of water turns kilometers of terrain into deep, impassable mud. You're creating a substantial, enduring obstacle. A defensive moat that heavy vehicles, tanks,
Supply convoys.
they just cannot cross it.
So you either force a massive time-consuming detour or you just halt an advance in that sector altogether. It's an immediate fix.
It's a long-lasting one.
Yeah.
It's a classic, if environmentally pretty costly, military maneuver. Defensive flooding. It buys you critical time and sets a new formidable barrier where there wasn't one before.
That's a huge takeaway. But that brings us to the elephant in the room. Right.
Why blow up infrastructure you control, something you might need later? When you connect that tactical move to the bigger picture, it becomes a very, very hard strategic signal.
This is where that footage analysis really gives us insight into the command's intent. Because destroying your own key infrastructure, it signals that the commanders have made a very difficult calculation.
And this area wasn't even marked as contested on maps like Deep State.
Not yet, no. On paper, they controlled it. But the act of creating such a massive, permanent obstacle, it strongly indicates they're preparing to pull out, to abandon the settlement of Pryvillya itself.
And maybe the nearby settlement of Manitha, too?
Potentially.
But wait, why jump to complete abandonment? Couldn't this just be, securing a flank, a temporary realignment, rather than giving up Pryvillya for good? That just seems like a massive price to pay for a short-term move.
And that's a crucial question. The analysts lean toward withdrawal because of the scale of what was done. A temporary move might justify, say, a partial breach.
Something you could repair later. Exactly.
Yeah.
But blowing the dam completely, creating this huge long-term flooded zone that suggests an acceptance that you're losing this terrain for a sustained period. It strongly implies a recent, very intense Russian push in that area.
A huge pressure point.
A huge pressure point that forced a strategic decision.
Yeah.
Trade this piece of ground for time and a guaranteed defensive line.
So it's a calculated sacrifice. They're giving up the settlement, but making sure the enemy pays a massive price in time and resources to follow them. This single demolition tells us so much about the shifting lines.
It speaks volumes about the pressure they're under in that one spot.
Okay, so having seen that strategic sacrifice, using water to slow an advance, let's pivot to the complete opposite approach.
The scalpel.
The scalpel-like precision needed to disrupt operations in a key urban battleground, Vovchansk. This is the precision side of our story.
And for this, we're shifting north to the Kharkiv region. Our source material had a short clip, about a week old when it was analyzed, showing a totally different kind of strike. A very accurate Ukrainian JDAM strike.
And just so you at home know, a JDAM, a Joint Direct Attack Munition, is basically a guidance kit. It turns a regular, unguided bomb into a GPS-guided smart munition.
High-tech targeting.
And the target here was incredibly specific.
Incredibly. We're talking about hitting a high-value, very small operational group. A Russian drone team.
Wow.
That team was operating out of a specific building, a large grain elevator near the rail yard in Vovchansk. And the footage showed, a textbook strike. And a nice big boom right on the target structure.
The complexity there is what gets me. Finding a mobile drone team inside a specific building and then getting a JDAM onto that exact coordinate. I mean, how tight does that intelligence window have to be?
Extremely tight. This isn't just about having the bomb. It's about the whole intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance chain.
The kill chain.
The whole kill chain. Drone teams move. They operate in short bursts to avoid being found. So to pull this off, you need real-time actionable intelligence. You need to find them, confirm their location, and be pretty sure they're still there when the munition arrives.
And this really underlines how effective targeting high-value assets can be, even in these messy urban fights. You hit a drone team, you're taking out the enemy's eyes in the sky.
Absolutely. A drone team is a huge force multiplier. It gives commanders that crucial visibility. So taking out even one team has this disproportionate effect on their operational tempo right there in that sector.
And as we're talking about this, it's a good moment to touch on the logistical reality that makes these things possible. The source analysis actually concluded by mentioning a grassroots effort that supports these units.
That's right. They highlighted the ongoing Christmas fundraiser for Cars for Ukraine, which is aimed at buying and delivering vehicles to different units.
It's such a crucial reminder. We analyze these multi-million-dollar JDAMs and high-level strategy.
But the daily grind of moving troops, of delivering that intelligence, of just basic scouting, it all relies on simple, low-tech support, like a reliable 4x4 vehicle.
The complexity of the JDAM strike is built on the simple foundation of logistics,
which requires that kind of constant support.
A necessary pause to recognize that. Okay, so let's put Vovchansk itself into its strategic context. It's worth reminding you why this city in the Kharkiv region is still such a critical battleground.
Vovchansk has immense value, both symbolic and geographic. Russia originally pushed into Kharkiv and Vovchansk last year to try and form a border buffer zone. And for a long time, the front lines there were pretty static.
But that's changed dramatically.
Yes. Our sources noted a real shift in momentum. Russia has pushed hard in recent weeks and has established significantly more control over the city of Vovchansk.
So what's the situation now?
The current context is that only small, sort of fragmented sections are still in Ukrainian hands. The fight there is incredibly concentrated and brutal.
Which makes that JDAM strike even more significant. It's not just a successful hit, it's a signal that even as one side is gaining ground and trying to consolidate, the risk for their high-value assets remains incredibly high.
That's it, exactly. When you start losing terrain, the focus shifts. It shifts to disrupting the enemy's consolidation, to preventing them from getting stable, unchallenged control.
And the ability to pull off a surgical strike like this inside a contested, partially occupied city, it means the fight for intelligence and operational superiority is still going on.
Street by street, building by building.
So what does this all mean when we put the two events together? We have two totally different tactical choices, but they're both aimed at the same goal: disrupt the Russian advance and raise the cost of any territory they gain.
On one hand, you have the heavy strategic defensive engineering at Pryvillya, that massive landscape-altering sacrifice of a dam that signals a withdrawal.
Trading ground for time.
Trading ground for time. And on the other hand, you have this highly accurate, focused attack in Vovchansk, the JDAM strike. It shows this ongoing effort to disrupt specific, high-value assets.
It's the difference between the defensive shovel and the offensive scalpel.
Perfectly put. And finally, this raises an important question for you, the listener, to think about. Reflect on that choice of defense we saw at Pryvillya. When a military destroys its own infrastructure for these purely defensive, landscape-altering purposes, what does that indicate about the expected duration of the conflict? What does it say about their commitment to holding that specific piece of terrain?
Is it a short-term delay for a counterattack somewhere else, or is it a long-term acceptance of new, entrenched defensive lines?
That's something for you to mull over on your own.
That choice sacrifice now for an unknown defensive future, that really is the tension that defines this front. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you feel a little bit more well-informed. We'll see you next time.